Hello, we'll continue with Julius Caesar Act I Scene 2. So here we are on line 225. So Caesar asks Antony to tell him what he thinks of Cassius. So after this, there's a Senate, there's a flourish of music. Caesar and his train exit from the stage, but Casca remains behind. So Casca tells Brutus and Cassius, "You plucked me by the cloak. Cloak is a piece of cloth that ancient Romans wore. It flowed across the back. You pulled me by the cloak. Would you speak with me?" So Casca asks Cassius and Brutus if they wanted to speak with him. Brutus says, "Hi, Casca, tell us what has chanced today that Caesar looks so sad." So Brutus says, "Yes, we do want to speak with you, Casca, and tell us what happened today in the stadium. Caesar looks so sad. Caesar looks so put out with himself. Maybe he's angry. What happened in the stadium?" So Casca, "Why, you were with him, were you not?" So Casca says, "Well, you were with Caesar in the stadium, weren't you? Were you not?" Brutus, "I should not then ask Casca what had chanced." So Brutus says, "If we were to be in the stadium, if we had been in the stadium, I would not ask you what happened in the stadium." Casca says, "Why? There was a crown offered him, and being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus, and then the people fell a shouting." So Casca tells Brutus and Cassius that a crown was offered to Caesar, and when it was offered to him, he put he brushed it aside with the back of his hand, thus, and he imitates what Caesar did. He brushes aside the crown with the back of his hand, and when he refused the crown, the people in the stadium fell shouting with joy because they thought he was a very modest and a very humble person because he refused crown when it was offered him. So Brutus says, "What was the second noise for? Why did the people shout, cheer second time?" And Casca says, "Why for that too?" So Casca tells him that the crown was offered to Caesar a second time to Cassius. They shouted thrice. What was the last cry for? So Cassius says, the people cheered a third time. What was the third time? Why did they cheer the third time? Casca says, "Why for that too?" So the crown was offered to Caesar three times, and the people cheered him each time because he refused the crown, and they thought him very humble, very modest, and a very down to earth sort of person. Casca says, "I, Mary was it," and he put it by thrice, every time gentler than the other. Then at every at every putting by, my honest neighbor shouted. So Casca says, "Yes, it was offered to him thrice, and he refused it three times, and each time he refused it, he was gentler than the previous time. So the second time he was more modest, and the third time he was more gentle than the first time. And every time he refused it, the honest neighbors, that is, the honest, common working class of Rome, they shouted louder than they did before." So Cassius asks, "Who offered him the crown?" Casca says, "Why, Antony." So Antony offered Caesar the crown. Brutus, "Tell us the manner of it, gentle Casca." So Brutus asks Casca, "Tell us the way in which this these events happened." Casca says, "I can as well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery." And so Casca says, "I don't know how it will happen. I really cannot tell how it happened. It seemed to me like, mere foolery, like a joke, like a clownish event. I did not mark it. So he says, I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown. It was not a crown, neither it was one of those coronets. So Casca says he saw Mark Antony offer Caesar a crown. Then he corrects himself. It's not a real crown. It was a small crown called a coronet. And as I told you, he put it by once. The first time he put it by, my thinking he would have fain have it. So to Casca, it seemed that Caesar was being devious, he was being deceptive, he was putting on a show, he was fooling the people because he really wanted that crown. He really wanted to be crowned Emperor of Rome, but he pretends or he seems to be modest. Then he offered it to him again. Then Antony offered Caesar the crown again. Again he put it by again. So he put it by, he refused it the second time. But to my thinking, says Casca, he was very loath to lay his fingers on it. So to Casca it seemed that Caesar really did not want to refuse it. He hated to refuse it. He was loath to refuse it. He put it the third time by, and still as he refused it, the rabblement hooted and clapped their chopped hands. And he refused it the third time. And as he refused it the third time, the rabblement, that is the common people, they hooted and clapped. They made sounds with their mouth, they made noises with their mouth, and they clapped their chopped hands. Chopped hands means because they do rough work, the hands are chopped, and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it almost choked Caesar. So, and the rabblement, that is the populace, they clapped their chopped hands. They threw up their sweaty nightcaps. And when they cheered, the bad breath entered the atmosphere in the stadium. All the bad breath entered the stadium. And that bad breath almost it choked Caesar, for he swooned and fell down. So he fainted. And for mine own part, I durst not laugh for fear of opening my lips and receiving the bad air. So Casca says he did not dare to open his lips and to laugh because did not want to receive the bad breath, bad air in the stadium. Casca, Cassius says, but soft, I pray you. What, did Caesar swoon? So Cassius says, uh, but wait a minute, soft, wait a minute. Did Caesar swoon? Did Caesar faint? Casca, he fell down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless. So Casca says that Caesar collapsed in the marketplace. There was foam on his mouth and he could not utter a word. That is, he had a fit of epilepsy. Brutus, it is very like he had the falling sickness. So Brutus says, I think it's right because he has a falling sickness. The falling sickness is epilepsy. Cassius now says, no, Caesar hath it not, but you and I, and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness. And so Cassius says, no, Caesar does not have the falling sickness, but you, Brutus, and I, Cassius, and honest Casca here, we have the falling sickness, which means that we have fallen in way below our uh, way below what we deserve. We have the falling sickness in Rome, Casca. I know not what you mean by that, but I'm sure Caesar fell down. If the Tagrac people did not clap and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as he used to do the players in the theatre, I'm no true man. So Casca says, I don't know what you mean by saying that I have the falling sickness. Uh, he tells Cassius that, but He says he was sure Caesar fell down if the tag rag people, if the ordinary common people did not clap him and hiss him as and when he pleased or displeased them, uh, as the as they cheer the actors on stage when they please or displease the audience. He says he's no true man. So what he's saying is that he's sure that Caesar was putting on a show, but unfortunately he fell victim to the bad breath of the people, and he really did not want to refuse the crown. He really thought that Caesar was